everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on the case study of Vanitas, episode 21. And, so last episode was probably my favorite in the series so far. But as hilarious as it was, and as heartbreaking as it was to see Vanitas have so little self-worth, and see him be like, just, why would anybody love me? And we'd be like, oh, you silly gremlin. And then see both Jean and Noé show in their own special ways how they care about Vanitas, despite all the humor, despite all the romance, despite all the hilarity that ensued. It was bookended by who we think is number 71, seemingly has Dominique under their control, and Dominique doesn't realize it, and they're trying to get a hold of Noé. Everybody wants Noé, which I don't blame them. Who wouldn't want Noé? But it's so crazy, right? So I don't exactly know what's going to happen. The only comment I had from the last set of episodes was from Geen, who noted that it was interesting back in episode 19 that we saw for the first time Vanitas we saw him hearing the Blue Moon vampires' advice as they were healing vampires, and he was searching for a way to do it. So they were questioning, has Vanitas always thought of the Blue Moon vampire as they were healing the other vampires? I don't know. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's crazy. We only have 21, 22, 23. We only have 4 episodes left of this season. And that's just bizarre to me. So it's very interesting. I don't know what we're going to get. But I'm very curious to see what this episode has in store. But I am a little bit nervous because last episode was so much fun and so carefree. And it was bookended by a little bit of seriousness that I'm like, was that the last fun we're going to have the rest of the series? I don't want that. But it might be. So, in any case, we're not going to waste any more time. I do want to give a special shout out over to Patreon, to our philanthropy tier, to thank everybody on Patreon and YouTube for supporting me and supporting my reactions. I super appreciate it, but I want to give a special shout out to our philanthropy tier, which includes Tyrone, Anime Annie, Eric, Sunspots, Translucent Men, Anna, Legatus, Goob, Matthew Palfinier, Argent, Nameless Monster, Shimoyama, as well as Kiri, Be Happy, Alex Cornejo, Edgar, Dana, and Ashy Gots No Bitches. I have a feeling I'm just going to saying that name just because, so. But anyway, I got home from work. It's been a long day. I had to stay for an event, and I was like, I am so ready to watch some Vanitas and just see what all we get. So, who knows? Maybe it'll be a fun episode. We'll see. But my dogs are here. I am here. I'm ready to get this party started. I hope you all are as well. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right into this episode and see what we get. So, without further ado, we're going to look at the case study of Vanitas, episode 21. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this, shall we? I mean, are we surprised that Mihail's terrifying? So, obviously, we talked about the Blue Moon vampire possibly being dead. Now, are they actually dead or are they not actually dead? We'll find out next episode, I'm sure. We have 3 episodes left, right? It feels like the next episode is going to be all flashback, which I'm fine with because it's been a long time coming. We've been needing some story about Vanitas, some flashback material. It's about damn time. The fact that the manga keeps going on beyond this, though, I don't think we're getting to Ruthven. No, I don't think we're even going to touch Ruthven. I don't even think we're going to touch... I don't know. I don't know. Because I'm like, are we going to get to the vow that Vanitas, that Noé made with Ruthven? Not Vanitas, but are we going to get to the vow that Ruthven made with Noé? Are we going to touch that? Is that just going to be something that we save for the manga and for back in the corner of our minds? Is Vanitas going to die by the end of this series and Noé, or is it going to be like a Moriarty and Sherlock thing, which, spoilers for Moriarty and Sherlock, the Moriarty the Patriot, spoilers while I'm waving my hand around. Is it going to be one of those things where we think that Moriarty is supposed to be dead and at the very end Sherlock and him show up in the cabin together? Is Noé writing this letter end of Moriarty spoilers, is Noé writing this letter with the assumption that he's killed Vanitas, and at the very end of the season we're going to see him and Vanitas like meet up again, and that's going to be where the manga picks back up at. I refuse to believe by the end of this series that Vanitas actually dies, because the manga's ongoing, so can't have the case study of Vanitas without Vanitas, right? So there's that mystery. But I don't know at this point. I'm very curious. What I don't want is for the series to rush its conclusion and try to cram everything in the last 3 episodes. I don't want that, because I've seen series do that. And y'all probably know I've watched one series on this channel, which, spoilers, number 6, which I guess is not really a spoiler. Number 6 is manga, is able to expand upon the ending in a much better way. The anime tried to cram it all together and end it like conclusively, and it didn't work. Not for me anyway. But so I'm hopeful. What I'm hoping is that Mihail being the villain, fine. I'm fine with that. It seems like it's been a long time coming, ever since Machina, ever since Moreau first mentioned number 71 to Vanitas. Vanitas was like, well, shit, I don't want to talk about that. Ever since that was said, I was like, okay, we're gonna go back and we're gonna talk about it. So that's interesting to know. But what is curious is, I don't know if we're even gonna touch Ruthven the rest of this series, if we're gonna leave him behind, or if he's gonna show up in the final hour alongside. So I didn't bring Whiteboard Kun out, but we basically have these different parties going on. Ruthven's over here. And Ruthven, whether or not Ruthven comes into play with all of this, he's got Noé owes him a favor. And Noé's been like, everybody wants to ask Noé to do him a favor. And it's like, what are we doing? But Ruthven has Noé able to do something for him at this point. Now, whether Ruthven's going to use that wish or that favor to kill Vanitas or to kill Mihail, don't know. But he's got him over here. So Ruthven could either do one of 2 things. Either Ruthven is going to not be present in these final 3 episodes, and that's going to be something saved for the manga, which I'm kind of hoping for. I hope it doesn't try to cram it all in. But I could also see Ruthven showing up in the final hour to fight Mihail or whatever. I'm interested about the Shapeless one. I don't think he'll come back this season. I think he's being saved for the manga as well. He's shady as F. And then there's the question of, is Vanitas actually going to die? I don't think so. But is he going to be made? Are we going to be made to believe that he's died? I definitely see why y'all want me to read the manga now. I definitely see that, right? I see that. I see the writing on the wall. So there's that question, right? Like what's going on? So there's that. But we don't know if Ruthven is going to come in the final hour to make Noé do his special request. We don't know. Mihail is terrifying, as one would expect, and we'll talk about Mihail in this episode. We get a lot with him and how he's terrifying. Dami, I feel so bad for Dominique, so bad, because she's been, we've led up to believe she's been this cool-headed character that's like in control of everything. Nope, not at all. And then Roland and Olivier, we get some stuff with them. And then Vanitas is like, shit, my little bro is insane. Let's not get around him, please. And then, is the Blue Moon Vampire dead? Did Vanitas kill them? That is the question, right? Did Vanitas kill the Blue Moon Vampire? I could very well see the Blue Moon Vampire being like letting Vanitas kill them. I could see that being the case, being like, I want you to be my successor, you take my life, whatever. And the whole reason they took him and his brother in, was to replace them. Maybe, we don't know. There's 2 books of Vanitas, right? There are 2 volumes, surprising no one. I think that it would be interesting if Vanitas was using one volume to heal vampires and Mihail was using the other volume to curse vampires. I thought that would be cool if there were the 2 different sides. And you have, Mihail has the white hair, Vanitas has the black hair. It's like they're polar opposites of one another. They seem very, Mihail has no problem like just stripping and like burying himself. Like he seems to bare himself constantly, which we'll talk about Mihail's character. And Vanitas is very withdrawn. So they're polar opposites on so many levels, which is really interesting, right? But the one thing I didn't like about this episode was that there was a lot of recap, and I'm not a recap fan. I'm like, even though it's been several weeks since, it's been nearly 20 weeks since episode 4, it's still pretty fresh in my mind. I still remember all the stuff with Louis and stuff, but we go through like everything. We go back through a lot, right? But man, when we first watched the episode, I was convinced that the Mihail, I thought it was in the same like font as Machina, and I was like, okay, which who knows? Machina and Mihail may be the same person. It could be an alias. They could be the exact same person for all we know. And because he has the automatronic arm, he has the Ottoman. It could be that Mihail is working with Machina, who is working with Ruthven, which is interesting. Who knows? And then the fact that Mihail was using the theme park, being like, I'm going to use Dominique to lure Noé there. What's interesting is why does Mihail want Noé to know about Vanitas' past? Why? Does Mihail seems to be able to like manipulate and control people, like he was able to control Dominique. So is he trying to learn about Vanitas to best him? Is he trying to learn about Vanitas and learn his secrets so that he can destroy him? Like, is there some reason that Mihail's not been able to attack Vanitas? Can you not kill your own kind in the Blue Moon clan? Then how did the Blue Moon vampire die? There's still many questions that I have concerning what Mihail's agenda is and why they want to know about Vanitas, but they seem pretty adamant about Noé learning all of this. And it's interesting, right? We're going to skip the OP. When we go back to Dominique meeting Noé alongside Louis. What's fascinating about all of this is that from the beginning, I think from the very, very beginning, Louis knew he was going to die. Like from the very start, he's known. Ever since he was old enough to understand, he's known. And so they were going to kill him outright. And then the shapeless one was like, oh no, let him stay with me. I want to try something. So I don't know if I were Louis. I mean, I guess I would feel good for a time knowing that he got to meet Noé and be with his sister and everything. But then what's sad about it is Louis seems to like really love the time he has with both Noé and Dominique. But the problem is, as he gets older and as he sees the burrow and the agenda that's against the curse bearers, he starts to realize what his own fate is going to be. And he starts to get very bitter and depressed and sad about it, which is why he's carving all the stakes, because he knows Noé is eventually going to, witness him die. So that's really, really sad. And so at that point, it's like, well, is all the good times with Noé and Dominique worth it, knowing that you're going to be hunted down and killed this way, like Mina was? But what's interesting is that they're twins. Louis and Dominique were twins, but it's bad luck and a sign of misfortune for some reason. Twins are a sign of misfortune for vampires. Why? I don't know. Maybe that's where the whole thing with Vanitas and Mihail comes in that they're not twins necessarily, but maybe having two siblings or a pair is a bad sign, right? Maybe it has something to do with the Blue Moon vampire. We don't know. All we know is that they wanted to kill one of the siblings, and then they decided. So did they give a curse to Louis? Was he born with a curse? There's still so much we don't know, and I feel like the manga is going to elaborate on it as well. But the shapeless one wanted to take him in, which is fascinating to me. And the fact that Veronica says that even the father could not override the shapeless one, the grandfather. I felt so bad for Dominique, though. Like Louis looks at Dominique and says, you really are like me. And to know that Louis must have felt so awful looking at his sister being like, oh, she's going to get to live and have this life and I'm doomed to die. And Dominique kind of feels, survivor's guilt, being like, if he knew this whole time, and then I said that to him about how I was envious of him, like how must he have felt about it, right? Like she feels awful in that moment. And then they go to save Mina, and he's like, they're beheaded by a burrow. That's the custom. And God, that shot of him in the shadows with Louis' eye, like just in yellow, like just glowing. It's crazy, right? And so then we have to relive all this experience with Louis and then the shapeless one toppling his head off of him. And then Noé's just really super sad. And they find all the stakes. Noé just has a psychological breakdown, right? The little drawings of all of them, of just Noé, she's like, what am I gonna do? Like, without my brother, like, what's going to happen to us? Am I going to be able to be with Noe? What's going to end up happening? And then Veronica shows up. Oh my God. Like, Veronica is, I'm not crazy about Veronica. She's such a bitch. Like, she shows up. Her sister is mourning the loss of her twin brother, mourning her friend being in psychological distress. And she just comes in. She's like, okay, let's go. Read the room, girl. But she is not going to read the room because she's not sad at all. Now, is Veronica putting on an act as a coping mechanism? I don't know. Why is Veronica's eyes like a Shuriken? I don't know. I'm assuming we're going to find out in the manga if we don't by the end of the series. But yeah, Veronica's character, it's like we don't exactly know if she's coping by putting on this facade of being very indifferent about her brother's death, or if she really is indifferent. We don't know. It's not made clear to us. It's just kind of left up to our interpretation. We assume that she's not sad that he's dead, but God, to tell your younger sister, be like, oh, you thought we hid him away because he was sick or something, that the whole curse bearer thing was an illness. No. He's your twin brother. That's why we hid him away, because it's bad luck. And we just didn't want him around. Like, the contrast between Dominique in this simple black dress looking absolutely miserable and plain, and then Veronica's in these frills and like the cream color and the roses and everything. I'm like, oh my God. Twins are said to rob the womb of far more life than one child. In the vampire world, they're a symbol of misfortune. And Dominique's like, you're telling me all this now? Should anyone learn that your mother had twins, it would tarnish the good name of the House de Sade, which is why they chose one of you. That's why your brother's been hid all this time, because the family, no one can know that there's a brother. There is no Louis. So it's heartbreaking because Dominique doesn't give a shit about appearances. She doesn't give a shit about her family. She doesn't care about that. But Veronica's like holding up, being like, I don't have a brother. Like, as far as I know, my brother died when he was born. It's just so weird. Like, I felt so bad for Dominique because she has this survivor's guilt. And she's like, why did they choose me? And they're like, oh, well, no reason. Your dad just felt like it at the time. I'm like, that's terrifying. Like, Dominique's like, it could have easily been me that was chosen instead of him. There was no rhyme or reason. They just picked her. And which it's fascinating because usually, like, I don't know what that says. Usually in a situation where it's picking the guy over the girl, they pick the guy. So on the one hand, hashtag feminism, I guess. But on the other hand, that's awful. Right? Maybe Louis was the younger one. I can't remember if he's younger or older, but if he was the younger one, they chose him because he was younger. Right? And she's like, I have no time to waste thinking of a little brother I never had. And then the scary thing is, like, Veronica, she, like, the mask that she wears and all the, like, the different, like, red hues and everything, it feels like Nania. It feels like a curse bearer, even though she's not. It feels like she's just as rotten as the curse bearers, right? And the way that her face is, it looks like a mask. So is she really thinking these things that she's telling Dominique, or is it all a facade? We don't know. But her saying, like, I wonder if he would have lived up to our expectations more than you if he had lived. Like, that's so cruel. Your sister's going through a lot of shit right now. The last thing she needs is you telling her, like, what a horrible job she's doing. What? How? It's so damn sad. And then, you know, Dominique just has this horrible, like, feeling of, you know, did I betray my brother and make him feel even worse? And then the thing about it is, when Noe wakes up and he sees her and thinks it's Louis, like, the thing about it is like, the thing about it is, it's not that Noe thinks any less of Dominique, right? He loves her just as much as Louis. It's just that in this moment, he's been so devastated and traumatized by Louis's death that when he sees her, he thinks it's Louis and he's really happy. But what Noe doesn't know is that Dominique's been through all of this just now. She's freaking out, and the last thing she needs is being confused for her dead brother, just piling onto the survivor's guilt. So it's like, it sucks. It sucks so much. And I'm like, damn it, show. Why are we doing this? You know? But, and then just the cracks of everything. The episode was called Scars, right? Which can cover a multitude of things. It can cover, scars can cover the scars of like the cracks in the foundation with Dominique. It can cover the blue moon vampire bite that Mihail has. It can cover all manner of sins, right? She's like, and Noé's like, I dreamt that you had died. And she's like, Noé, do you wish that Louis had been chosen instead? And the answer is no. He does not wish that Louis had been chosen instead. He wants both of them there, right? But Dominique she doesn't realize that. And so now all of Dominique's actions of Dominique's entire setup of trying to, be with Noé and get Noé to like her, it's all just her trying to prove to herself that her existence is valid, right? Which is so horrible. And to Noé loves her like a sister, and he wants to keep her safe, and you can't help but blame her. It's like all these things make sense. These characters just don't realize it about each other, and you're like, damn it. And her with the scissors, like that shot of her just cutting off all the hair and trying to dress up like Louis. And then Noé like crying, being like, that's not what I want. I don't want Louis. I don't want you to pretend to be someone you're not. Like, it's just absolutely heartbreaking, right? It's just absolutely heartbreaking. Okay, now the thing about this scene with Dante, when we go back to the present, is that as soon as Mihail shows up, Dante like pieces out. Like, what? Dante's in on this. Him and Johan, they're all working for Mihail, I'm sure. At this point, I bet they're working for Mihail, and whatever parts and pieces they've been getting for Machina, for Mihail, whatever, if they're the same person or if they're different people, they're working together, because Dante just leaving as soon as Mihail shows up without even like, oh, he's like, oh, bye, Dominique, bye, without even noticing anything weird, is suspicious. It's very suspicious. It happens so suddenly. And then he just bumps into her, and there's the chain and everything in the book. And then Dante gets the bat, and that's it. Now, maybe Dante got the bat, and he's like, oh, if you'll excuse me, bye. But I'm like, just nothing? And that's when Mihail's like, oh, hi, I'm Mihail. There's a weird ruffle of his hair, and there's a shot of a weird ruffle of his hair saying, that's my name. I'm like, what is happening? And then she just kind of looks at him. He's like, are you crying, mademoiselle? And she's like, what? She's like, you poor thing. And then it's like looking into his eyes, looking into the blue of his eyes is some kind of like trigger, right? So now the question is, she looks into Vanitas's eyes and nothing happens. So why is it when she looks into Mihail's eyes that he has this power over her? We don't know yet. He's like, I pity you, mademoiselle. And then it's like the power of the blue moon vampire in his eyes, and in the book, like, triggers her, right? So the question is I think that Mihail, he's using his power. Mihail and Vanitas both have the power of the blue moon vampire, right? It's been passed down to them. But that power, like Vanitas has said, you can either use one of two ways. You can either use it to save vampires or to curse them. I think that Mihail is using it to curse them, and that's what triggers Dominique to her eyes to go red and everything. And she's like, I wish it had been me that was cursed instead of Louis, and that I had died and he had lived. And I think that Mihail's like, well, I can make that happen. So that's the question. Like, is that something we're going to be getting? Like, what is going to be the deal with that? Because she's like, I wish it had been me who became a curse bearer. Because that seems to be what happens to her in this, and why she's been attacking random people, right? I wish it was I who was beheaded. I wish it was Louis who was now by Noé's side. And then she falls down to Mihail, and Mihail seems to take complete advantage. And it's just like, it's the creepiest thing, where it's like he takes these vampires under his wing and makes them confess their sins and confess their thoughts to him, and then he does what he wants with them. It's creepy. And the idea that Vanitas may be able to do the exact same thing is also creepy, because we don't know. Can Vanitas do the same thing that Mihail can do? We don't know. And maybe that's why Vanitas, Mihail seems quite the opposite of Vanitas, where Mihail tries to immediately get cozy to people and warm up to them and like get inside to like counsel them and nurture them. And Vanitas is like, I want to keep my distance. Maybe that's why. Maybe Vanitas knows what that power can do, and he's like, I don't want to use it. Sorry, no thanks. I don't want that to be a part of it. And she's like, if I had died, she's like, forgive me, Noe. And Mihail's like, well, the tragic princess will find her happiness. He's kind of terrifying. Like, the ones that act all goody-goody when they're doing crazy things, and the idea of the fog beside him and everything, it's terrifying. Genuinely, right? I do feel like they intentionally made this episode to be where it would end with us like reaching that certain point in the past with Vanitas. I'm going to be very curious to see what we get next episode. Meanwhile, Vanitas is like Noe is absolutely pissed, right? Noe is pissed. Meanwhile, Dante is there with Vanitas and they're drinking. It's like, what is Dante and Johan and them doing? What is happening? What is going on? What is this business? No. And Amelia is like, something terrible has happened, and Noe is just pissed. He's like, I have to protect Dominique. What are you doing? And then the whole idea of the carnival is just terrifying. And there's this automaton with, it's like a Doberman with the tail and like the scorpion tail, and it's got the Astermite powering it. And then Vanitas is like, it's Mihail that wrote the letter. He's alive. So Vanitas seems to think that he killed both the Blue Moon Vampire and Mihail, but Mihail lived. I'm going to guess that's how Mihail got the automa. My theory at this point is that Vanitas, for whatever reason, decided that he had to kill the Blue Moon Vampire and Mihail. So my theory is that he went to kill Mihail and the Blue Moon Vampire, succeeded in killing the Blue Moon Vampire, but just cut off the arm of Mihail and left him to die. And my theory is either Ruthven or Machina found, I'm thinking Machina found Mihail, saved him, gave them the mechanical arm, the access to the automatons, and that's what he's been, and now he's been plotting his revenge against Vanitas. And he's going to go after the people that Vanitas cares about the most, which would be Noe. And if Jean gets involved, then it's going to be Jean too. So, not having that. But anyway, so Mihail uses the power of the book to literally disarm Noe and bring him to his knees and make it to where he can't do anything. So yes, so the power of the book enables him to control and stop the Red Moon vampires. That makes sense, right? We've seen that in action, only it's been used to save vampires instead of incapacitate them. And he's like, this book was passed down to me from the Blue Moon Vampire. And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm just imitating my brother. I'm channeling my big brother. So the question is, why does Mihail have that book? What can he do? Why is he dressed similarly to him? What's going on? Lots of questions. He's like, Dominique told me. Hasn't my big brother told you anything about me? And the scary thing is that he's like, you don't know anything about my brother Vanitas, do you? And he doesn't, because Vanitas doesn't want to tell him anything. And for good reason. My theory is that Mihail has the ability to pry information out of people, and whatever information that Mihail wants is information that Vanitas does not want him to have. So when he tells me, he's like, go ahead and go drink the blood of my brother so you can figure these things out. But I don't think he can control what Noe does. I think he just has this power of suggestion. I don't know. But in any case, the idea is like, sink your fangs into his pale skin. It seems like when he has, like, he's like, you're good at that sort of thing, aren't you? And so the interesting thing is, like, he has a way to manipulate the vampires, but we don't know exactly how, right? So meanwhile, it seems like Luca is being told alongside Jean that Dominique is missing, and they think it's a little bit suspicious that she's not come back in 3 days. And so I anticipate this entire series is leading up to Jean's going to show up along with Noe and Vanitas, and they're all going to be there together, and then it's going to be like, what do we do? Is Jean going to be okay if Noe kills Vanitas, or if Vanitas dies? Is Noe going to be okay? Is Jean going to be okay with that? I don't see how Vanitas can die in this series and the series go on. So there's that. I don't know. I'm so intrigued to know how this is all going to add up. But he's like, I don't understand the person you call father. It's like, are you saying Vanitas killed him? And Mihail's like, you really don't know anything about what's going on. He's like, wait a minute, Vanitas hasn't told you a thing. You have no clue. He's like, oh, right. You don't know. He's like, oh, that I was a bit startled by that last bit. I jumped to conclusions. He's like, asking you to suck Vanitas' blood has thrown you for a loop, so I'm going to have you suck my blood instead. And the idea that he started, like the moment he pushes Noe down, knowing that his mother was a prostitute and knowing that she used him for her customers, like that adds like a sick layer to all of this, that this kind of like sexuality that Mihail has is something that he inherited like from the line of work his mom was doing and involving him. It is really disturbing, and I feel for Mihail being used as a child prostitute by their own mother and being dressed like a woman to get with men who know that he's not a woman. Like, there's something so wrong about that entire scenario that I feel bad for Mihail in that regard. And I feel like a lot of what happened with his mom completely influenced how he is now and his, like, how he views things. Right? Because then he tells Noe, he's like, if you don't suck my blood, I'm going to make Dominique die. And Noe's like, I have to protect Dominique. And so that's why he sucks his blood. And just the idea of him laughing. Now the question is, Mihail has the bite on his shoulder. Does it extend all the way down his arm or not? It doesn't seem to be that way. So what's the deal? And that's when he goes into the past and sees Mihail as the child with the silvery eyes. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is the vampire that attacked their mom, that attacked his mother and killed her, is it the same vampire that fought against Roland and Olivier? Or had Roland and Olivier come from a different battle with Ruth Venner, another vampire? Right? Because it's interesting. I wouldn't think that the vampire that killed Mihail's mom is the same one that fought Roland and Olivier. Maybe the timing is right for it. I don't know. But whatever the case was, Roland and Olivier, like, they got into a scuffle because they're both, like, covered in bandages and look like they've been through 9 kinds of hell. I like this show tries to incorporate humor. Like, we just got done talking about child prostitution, and we've established that Mihail has a lot of things wrong with them and is mentally unstable. And this show tries to, like, make Roland a mummy and make it funny. And in any other episode, I'd be like, ha ha ha. But in this episode, I'm like, this is not the episode for levity. And this is not the type of levity that we need right now. I was like, what are we doing, show? Stop. But yeah, I appreciate they try to make it humorsome for a little bit. And so Roland's talking about taking Mihail somewhere. Now, was Roland taking Mihail to Moreau and didn't realize what Moreau was doing? He just thought, because he's like, oh, there'll be a lot of kids your age there. So I'm like, that makes it sound like he's taking him to Moreau. And then he leads to this place and ends up leaving him there, and Moreau gets him. So I'm like, was Roland aware what Moreau was doing to the children? I don't think so. If that was the case and he was leaving him there for Moreau, I don't think he realized what he was doing. Or was he talking about somewhere different for the kid, for Mihail to go, and he just never made it there? That we don't know, right? And then this whole line here about Mihail saying, why did they have to kill that vampire? And Roland's like, well, the vampire killed your mom. And Mihail's like, no, he saved her. At that point, I was like, oh no, Mihail's entire worldview and perspective is a bit warped. Just a wee bit. Because Mihail, with like those silver eyes before they became blue, has the idea of my mother had a demon inside of her. Like her beating him, causing physical abuse, using him as a child prostitute. Like she had this demon in her. And the vampire released that demon from her and saved her from it. She only did that when the demon inside of her was being bad. And then after she was mad the whole time the vampire was there. But after that, her face slowly returned. Like, it's that idea of ecstasy, right? That the vampire was in ecstasy and, like, made her be in ecstasy too. And in that moment before she died, her kind face returned. That's messed up. Now, we don't see the vampire's face, but I'm like, was it the shapeless one? Was it something else? Was it a vampire that Roland and them killed? We don't know. I'm like, what do we do about it? It's just, what do we do? It's just messed up. And you get the idea of saying my mom was really pretty in that moment. And Roland's just like, this is the most messed up thing ever. Which it is, right? It is messed up. But it makes sense that Mihail just has this insanely warped view of the world. And him becoming a vampire is not a good thing. It's like of all people that should become vampires, Mihail does not seem like he was one that should have become one. But here we are, right? It explains why he was so happy to go with the blooming vampire to begin with. All of this. And so then as Olivier takes Roland away, thinking he shouldn't be there, that's when Moreau takes Mihail and said, the child you procured for me was broken immediately. I found this one, so let me have them. They're scrambling to deal with that prostitute's murder. Still chalk it up to a runaway. Which is kind of sad that Moreau steals Mihail and we never really see Roland and them go after Mihail or try to find him when he was there within their own walls. Because, like Moreau said, they probably just chalked it up as a runaway. It's insane, right? And then we see Vanitas show up. I'm counting on you, number 69. So 70 was the one that died. They got Vanitas, and then number 70 was next. And they didn't make it, so this was 71. And you see Vanitas, like the bandages on his arm and his neck. Ugh. And we know Vanitas had blue eyes, just not the bright blue eyes. They're darker there in the shadows. And he just looks absolutely terrified. I definitely feel like we're going to get Vanitas' story. And the thing about it is we don't really have a lot about Vanitas' personality in the past. We get glimpses of him being terrified. But we don't know a whole lot about the personality he had. We got a lot with Mihail in this episode. A lot explaining Mihail's personality, which is very disturbed. Understandably so, but very disturbed. So, And I can see now why Vanitas may have been in a situation where he felt that he had no choice but to kill Mihail, because Mihail's view is pretty warped. And I can see Mihail doing some things that are sketchy and thinking that they're okay. So, I don't know, y'all. I'm really nervous because I'm in this weird place where I think that Vanitas, I don't know at this point how we're ending the series in 3 episodes. We're definitely getting a flashback next episode for sure, which I'm all excited about. But then after that, you know that Vanitas is going to show up to face Mihail. You know it's going to happen. You know that Jean's going to show up too. How we're going to deal with that? Is Ruthven going to show up? What's going to happen? Is Luca going to be there? What's Dante and Johan's involvement? Is a lot of this not going to be answered until the manga? No. I don't know! But I'm really, really nervous. Very nervous. And I feel very bad for Dominique. I want her to not feel like she doesn't deserve to live. I got like very Chloe vibes from Dominique in this episode. And I was like, no, we just got done convincing Chloe that she needs to live with Jean-Jacques. And I'm like, no way, it's clearly Dominique's Jean-Jacques, but like to me in a platonic way. So I'm like, what do we do with that, y'all? What do we do with that? I don't know, but I'm really excited to hear your comments down below, but I'm excited for next week's episode. I'm nervous as hell for episodes 23 and 24, but I'm excited for next week because we get flashback, and I love a good flashback. It's been a long time coming. I feel we've been owed this for a while now, so ugh. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 22 of the case study of Vanitas. Bye!